halfway up a flight of stairs, your legs are working harder than they used to, and it's not just about being out of shape. Then, later that same evening, mid-sentence, you are completely blank on a word you've known your whole life. Two different moments, same day, and most people write both off as separate things, or just getting older. But here's what almost nobody tells you. Your legs and your memory may be running low on the exact same thing. A compound most people have only ever heard of in a gym bag, next to a protein shaker. It's called creatine. And by the time I explain what it's actually for, you'll understand why calling it a bodybuilding supplement is a little like calling a phone a thing that rings. Here's the first clue this matters more than the gym culture reputation suggests. Creatine isn't something exotic your body has to go find. It's already inside you, made quietly in your liver and kidneys, and stored in your muscles and your brain right now. The question isn't whether you have it, it's whether you have enough of it. And for a specific reason I'll get to in a moment, a lot of women simply don't. Let's start with what creatine really is. Your cells run on a molecule called ATP. Think of it as the battery that powers everything you do, from lifting a grocery bag to forming a sentence. When you drain that battery fast, your body needs a way to recharge it just as fast. That's creatine's job. It's stored mostly as phosphocreatine, sitting in reserve inside your muscle cells and your brain cells, ready to instantly regenerate ATP the moment demand spikes. That recharge happens fast through a chemical handoff called the creatine kinase reaction, where phosphocreatine instantly rebuilds ATP the moment it's used. Think of it less like a slow-burning fuel tank and more like a spring-loaded backup battery, fully charged and ready to fire the instant your muscles or your neurons need a burst faster than your regular metabolism can supply. Here's the part almost nobody explains clearly. This isn't only a muscle system. Your brain is one of the most energy-hungry organs you have, and it draws on that same phosphocreatine reserve to keep neurons firing, especially under stress, fatigue, or sleep loss. Two organs, one shared recharging system. And here's something that matters specifically if you're a woman listening to this. Women typically store 70 to 80% less creatine than men, partly from lower dietary intake, partly from having less muscle mass to store it in. That's not a small gap. It means the recharge reserve a lot of women are running on is naturally smaller to begin with, right in the decades when muscle and cognitive changes start showing up. So what happens when you top that reserve back up? Let's start with muscle, since that's the best studied piece. A 2025 systematic review and meta-analysis pooling 7 randomized placebo-controlled trials in postmenopausal women found a real, measurable gain in lean muscle mass with creatine supplementation. It wasn't dramatic, the pooled effect was modest, but it was consistent and low risk, and it showed up whether or not the women were doing resistance training with a stronger effect in the group that combined creatine with strength training. Now, muscle wasn't the only thing researchers went looking for. The brain side of this story is newer and honestly more exciting. A 2024 systematic review and meta-analysis in the journal Frontiers in Nutrition, pooling 16 randomized controlled trials, found that creatine supplementation was most beneficial for cognitive performance, specifically in women and in people managing an existing health condition. Then in 2026, a small but striking study pushed this further. Researchers kept healthy adults awake for 21 hours straight, then gave half of them a single large dose of creatine. The group that got it performed measurably better on tasks involving focus, reaction time, and quick problem solving than the group that didn't, in exactly the kind of scenario where your brain's energy reserve is running on empty. Now here's where I want to be straight with you, because that's what this channel is built on. Not everything about creatine and healthy aging is settled. Take bone health. One well-designed trial found postmenopausal women taking creatine gained meaningfully more hip bone density over a year. But a larger 2-year randomized trial found no bone benefit at all, and that same 2025 meta-analysis found bone density essentially unchanged once everything was pooled together. That's not a failure of the research. That's the research being honest with you. And it's exactly the kind of nuance I'd rather you get twice a week by subscribing than take any single video's word for. The cognitive research carries a similar asterisk. Most of the strongest brain benefits so far come from adults under 60 and from people already managing a health condition. That doesn't mean creatine won't help you if you're older or healthy. It means the evidence in exactly your age bracket is still catching up to the buzz. What we can say honestly is this: the muscle benefit is real and low risk. The brain benefit is promising and biologically plausible since creatine fuels the same energy system in both organs. The bone story is genuinely still unresolved. One more honesty check, since it's probably crossed your mind: the kidney worry. That reputation comes almost entirely from creatinine, a normal breakdown product that shows up in blood tests, not actual kidney damage. In people with healthy kidneys, decades of research, including trials lasting up to 2 years in older adults, haven't shown creatine harming kidney function. If you already have kidney disease, that's a conversation for your doctor, not a reason to write it off otherwise. So, what would I actually do with this information? Creatine monohydrate is the most studied, least expensive, and best tolerated form. No need to reach for anything fancier. Most research uses 3 to 5 grams a day, and timing barely matters. What matters is consistency, since your reserves build up over several weeks, not overnight. Pair it with resistance training if you can, even just twice a week, since that's where the muscle evidence is strongest. Drink enough water, since creatine pulls water into your muscle cells, and that's normal, not a warning sign. And skip the loading phase some gym advice pushes. 20 grams a day for a week isn't necessary. A steady 3 to 5 grams from the start is what the research on women actually used. Here's what I want you to walk away with. Your muscles and your brain share the exact same rapid recharge system, and for a lot of women, that system is running on a smaller reserve than it needs to be. Topping it up with something as simple, affordable, and well-studied as creatine monohydrate won't reverse aging on its own. Nothing does, but it's one of the few supplements where the muscle evidence is genuinely solid and the brain evidence is catching up fast. If you want to try it yourself, I've linked the exact monohydrate formulation I'd actually buy in the description below. A quick note, this video is for education, not diagnosis. If you have kidney concerns or take medication, please talk with your doctor before starting any new supplement. Next time, we're looking at a compound most people have never heard of that's showing real promise for heart health. Stick around for that one. It might surprise you as much as this one did. I'll see you there.